What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and we are back with more Strixhaven, a curriculum of chaos content. This time we're going to be talking about the spells, and I do feel it's a little bit of a travesty in a book based on a literal school of magic where people learn all sorts of spells, like a D&D Hogwarts, if you will. It's a little bit different. It's obviously Magic the Gathering based. There are 5 houses, and things are overall different, but to only have 5 new spells seems like this would have been the book to put the spells in. That being said, the 5 new spells are pretty unique, some of them a little on the OP side, depending on who you ask, and they are each one tied to one of those 5 houses. So if you like what I do here and you like this kind of content and you want to see that number go from 86.8K maybe all the way up to 100 so we can hang a cool YouTube plaque on a back wall, well, I would ask you to consider subscribing if you like what I do here. But I'm not going to force you to do it. I don't have any means to do that even if I wanted to. So let's go ahead and dive in right now and take a look. So you can see we have these 5 spells. Now, one of the things that a lot of people bring up is one of the best spells, in my opinion, is Silvery Barbs, and it's also the only first level spell on this whole list. Now you can see they do cover 5 different schools of magic: enchantment, divination, transmutation, conjuration, and necromancy, and they are for a variety of different classes. You see that Silvery Barbs is available to the Bard, Sorcerer, Wizard, Borrow Knowledge to the Bard, Cleric, Warlock, Wizard, Artificer to the, Kinetic Jaunt rather to the Artificer, Bard, Sorcerer, Wizard, Vortex Warp to the Artificer, Sorcerer, and Wizard, and Wither and Bloom to the Druid, Sorcerer, and Wizard. When you read through these, some of these may seem a little bit off. For example, I feel like Wither and Bloom should be available to the Warlock, as well as Vortex Warp. Interesting that we don't get any half-casters in here. We do get the Artificer, but we don't get Paladin or Ranger in here at all. All right, so we'll start off with the first second-level spell on this list. This goes in alphabetical order here, Borrowed Knowledge. It is 1 action casting time, a range of self, has components, verbal somatic material with a 25 gold piece book material component, duration 1 hour, non-concentration. You draw on the knowledge from spirits of the past, choose 1 skill in which you lack proficiency. For that 1 hour non-concentration duration, you have proficiency in that skill. It ends early if you cast it again. Now, it is available to the Bard, Cleric, Warlock, and Wizard. Bards, I see why this is available to the Bard, because it feels like a bardic spell. However, I feel like with Jack of all trades, it's less useful. But I'd say for the other 3, the Cleric, Warlock, and Wizard, who are very limited in the number of skill proficiencies they get, not including feats and racial abilities, this is super useful. Excuse me, especially if you have extra spell slots, or as the Warlock, getting your spell slots back on a short rest. We could probably make extreme use of this spell, Borrowed Knowledge, by just saying, hey, you know what? We know we're going to encounter this one thing. Let me prep it. I also would say this is a great spell specifically available to the Cleric, because the Cleric has the ability to have their entire spell list unlocked. They just prepare what they need at the start of the day, and they can obviously use this to supplement whatever situations they find themselves in. Next up, we have Kinetic Jaunt, again available to the Artificer, Bard, Sorcerer, and Wizard. This one is a bonus action casting time, range of self, concentration up to a minute. You magically empower your movement with dance-like steps, giving you the following benefits for the duration: an increased movement speed of 10 feet. Your movement does not provoke attacks of opportunity. Actually, you don't provoke attacks of opportunity of any kind. And you can move through the space of another creature, and it doesn't count as difficult terrain. If you end your turn in another creature's space, you are shunted into the last unoccupied space you occupied, and you take a d8 force damage. So I will say, if you're able to move through a creature's square, it does count as difficult terrain, thus having your movement. And typically, you also, if you're trying to figure out a way to do this around enemies, maybe you're a small character, they're a larger character, you would still provoke attacks of opportunity. This spell is fantastic in a lot of ways. It's like Expeditious Retreat, I think, gives you the extra movement speed. This is a bonus action to do so. It lasts for a minute, and during that time, you basically have a lot of the benefits of the mobile feat, right? You could move through other creatures' spaces, you have the extra 10 feet of movement, and you don't provoke any attacks of opportunity. This still allows you to do a variety of different things. It is a bonus action to cast, so you still have your full action to do so. And again, depending on the class that you're playing, this could be huge for you, right? I mean, again, this is available on the Bard, which is kind of nice, and the Artificer. Next up is, and again, my opinion, one of the best spell, if not the best spell in this book, Silvery Barbs. Because not only is this a first level spell, it is a reactionary spell, And as we know, reaction spells typically are exceptionally useful in this game. So let's see, it's 1 reaction, the casting time, which you take when a creature you can see within 60 feet of you succeeds on an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw. That is all of the things that require a d20, and if they succeed on it, mind you, it's if they succeed. So you have to know that they did it, which allows you to trigger this spell. Range is 60 feet. You magically distract the triggering creature and turn its momentary uncertainty into encouragement for another creature. The triggering creature must re-roll the d20 and use the lower roll. Remind you that this is when a creature you can see, now this could be an ally, more than likely this will be an enemy, succeeds on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. One of the huge things here is this is on a saving throw. So in theory, you could be casting your own spell at this enemy. They succeed on the saving throw for your spell. You then choose to activate silvery barbs, therefore having them have to re-roll that and take the lower number. Remind you, once again, this is only when they succeed, so you do not waste this spell. And if that wasn't enough, it probably could have been alone, just the ability to make them re-roll and take the lower number. But it adds another beneficial effect to it. You then choose a different creature you can see within that 60-foot range, which could be yourself, and that chosen creature has advantage on the next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw they make within 1 minute. A creature can be empowered by only one use of this spell at a time. Now, that is a non-concentration 1 minute that you will have advantage on the next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw that you make. You can use this spell, in theory, multiple times on multiple turns to shut down enemies, giving them disadvantage, essentially, and making them take the lower roll whenever they succeed on one of those triggering abilities, and give yourself and your allies advantage, really allowing you to do all sorts of crazy stuff. Again, there's nothing, and see my videos on spellcasting and actions on a turn. You can cast a reactionary spell on your turn and still cast an action spell on your turn. I'm sure people in the comments are going to tell me I'm wrong. I'm right, and I know that I'm right. Just like you can cast a spell, someone can counterspell your spell, and then you can counterspell their counterspell on your turn. This is the same thing. I'm going to cast Finger of Death on this enemy. They succeed on the saving throw. I say I'm going to use Silvery Barbs and make them re-roll that number, taking the lower number. Now, the lower number might still be a success, but it has the potential to turn a success into a failure. And on top of all of that, I'm going to give an ally or myself advantage on the next ability check, attack roll, or saving throw. There are all sorts of things. If you have some sort of special weapon that does damage or poison or something, you could swing with an attack, hit someone, force them to make a saving throw. They succeed, you activate Silvery Barbs, they fail, but then you now have advantage on your next attack roll. This could be used to give things like a rogue sneak attack when they wouldn't have it because now they have advantage on an attack roll. Give your barbarian or your paladin the ability to fish for crits. This spell is absolutely amazing. And if this is the kind of spells we're going to see in the future, gear up for the power creep, folks, because this is bananas. And it is a first level spell. Like, so much stuff for a first level spell. Again, available to the Bard, Sorcerer, and Wizard. I couldn't think of a more bardic-based spell. Again, this could be taken on a lore bard, so you could pack cutting words onto, I mean, obviously you can't use 2 reactions on a turn, but Bardic Inspiration, now Bardic Inspiration plus advantage. You could possibly, if somebody else has Silvery Barbs, they could hit someone with disadvantage, and then you could follow up with cutting words. This could be insane, the amount of uses this spell has. And then we get to one of the next superpowered spells in this, Vortex Warp, a 1-action 90-foot range, and it is an instantaneous spell. Let's talk about what this one can do. You magically twist the space around another creature you can see within range. It's important to say that it's another creature because it means you can't use it on yourself. That target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw, which they can choose to fail if you wish. They are teleported to an unoccupied space of your choice that you can see within range. The chosen space must be on a surface or in a liquid that can support the target without the target having to squeeze. So let's talk about how much stuff you can do with this ridiculous spell. So not only does it allow me as an action on my turn to possibly save an ally by allowing them to choose to fail the Constitution saving throw, allowing me to reposition them in a better spot by moving them and a reminder, it's any 90 feet. So I could be standing here, they could be 90 feet this way, they're within range, and I could teleport them 90 feet the other way behind me. It's anywhere within that 90-foot space that you teleport them. And again, this is a possible battlefield control spell where you can teleport an enemy elsewhere. Now, look at what it says. It says, on a surface or in a liquid that can support the target without the target having to squeeze. The only detractor there is the space has to be big enough to hold them. You know what's a liquid that could support them? Lava. You could teleport them into lava or onto thin ice, onto a wall of force that your party member is holding, over a pit, over something that then they choose to, ready in action to drop it when you drop them on it. There are so many ways in which you could use this spell and exploit the surface or liquid that supports them. I can't even think of all the different things. I mean, it could be up on a cliff. It depends on what you consider that surface to be. There are so many things you can do with this to just absolutely destroy the battlefield. And if that wasn't enough, you can upcast this spell, and for every use of above second level, you add 30 feet to the spell. So casting this with a third level spell puts this range at 120 feet, and so on. You can continue to move this, and really, depending on how high you cast this, if they fail that con save, you can do all sorts of crazy battlefield manipulation. And lastly, we have another very good spell, Wither and Bloom. This is a second level spell. As an action is a range of 60 feet, once again an instantaneous duration. You invoke both death and life upon a 10-foot radius sphere centered on a point, again within 60 feet. Each creature of your choice in that area, again of your choice, which is important, must make a con save or take 2d6 necrotic damage on a failed save, or half as much on a success. Non-magical vegetation in that area withers. So, benefit is, 1, it is an AoE, choose your target's AoE that takes 2d6 necrotic damage. Now, I will say that this is going up against very powerful second level spells like Shatter. Shatter is, I think, a 90-foot range, and it's a 20-foot cube or something, 20-foot radius, and it is 3d8 damage. But Shatter does not allow you to distinguish enemy from ally. Shatter is a dexterity saving throw. This is a constitution saving throw. And this is a 10-foot radius sphere, so again, a 20-foot diameter sphere overall. It is necrotic damage, which is, I'd say necrotic damage and thunder damage are kind of both in the same realm as far as creatures that resist it are fairly few and far between. Depending on if you're facing a lot of undead, necrotic damage may not work. But it does get the benefit, same thing as Shatter, as they still take half damage even if they succeed on the saving throw. But it has this other benefit. In addition, one creature of your choice within that 10-foot radius sphere can spend and roll one of its unspent hit dice and regain a number of hit points equal to that roll plus your spellcasting ability modifier. So again, depending on how you use this has a ton of benefits, right? Your barbarian is surrounded by enemies. You drop Wither and Bloom on top of them. You knock all the enemies for 2d6 necrotic damage, and your barbarian gets to roll their hit die, which is a d12, and add your spellcasting ability modifier, and it is allowing them to gain actual hit points, so they can possibly... and it says one creature of your choice in that area can spend and roll a hit dice, an unspent hit dice. It's just of your choice, so I believe they can still do that if they're at 0 hit points. So this could possibly pop somebody back up. I don't think there's anything that specifies that an unconscious character can't spend a hit die. There might be some language around that. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but they just, according to the spell, they just need to be within range to trigger that. And then again, at higher levels, when you cast this spell using a spell slot of 3rd level or higher, the damage increases by a d6, so going from 2d6 to 3d6, and the number of hit dice spent and added to the healing roll goes up as well. Number of hit dice that can be spent. Yeah, so if you cast this at 3rd level, it does 3d6 necrotic damage, and the character that you're choosing to heal can spend 2 hit dice. And again, there are other ways that depending on how you have this, you can benefit and stack things as far as spending hit dice. I believe there is either a feat, or I think it's one of the lower uncommon magic items allows you, whenever you spend a hit dice, you spend double or something along those lines. I'm gonna actually look it up right now. I believe it is the amulet or the periapt of wound closure, I want to say. Maybe that's not the right one. In addition, whenever you roll a hit die to regain hit points, double the number of hit points it restores. That's an uncommon attunement magic item that you could get, the periapt of wound closure. If you were to have that on one of the allies, they could even benefit more from Wither and Bloom. And I believe there is also a feat in the player's handbook. I want to say is it durable that does this? Whenever you roll a hit die to regain hit points, the minimum number of hit points you regain from the roll equals twice your Constitution modifier. So that could possibly stack as well. And I believe there are even some racial abilities or racial feats. I think I want to say there's a Dwarven-based one, but that might only be when you take the dodge action, you can roll hit dice. Either way, there are a lot of benefits and ways you can use that. These spells, while definitely powerful, and I think you could make the argument they fall into the OP category, they allow us to do things we've never done before. This whole teleportation against someone's will, moving them away. Now, they made it so that you can't teleport them straight up into the air and drop them down, but again, what surface you choose to have them land on, or liquid you choose to put them in. Pool of Acid is a liquid that can support them. Not going to support them for very long, but it will support them on top of a dragon, maybe on top of a gelatinous cube. I guess that kind of is a surface that could support them. They'll slowly get subsumed inside it, but you get my point. And again, that's great. This whole giving, basically disadvantage without it actually being called disadvantage. So there may be other exploitations you can do because it's not disadvantage. Like if someone has disadvantage on a roll, you could still use silvery barbs and then force them to take the lowest roll. So there's benefits there as well. And then again, Wither and Bloom allowing you to damage enemies, but also allow allies to use hit dice to heal. So I don't know if this is what we're going to see in the next couple of years, and these are all kind of what the future looks like come 2024, but there's a lot to talk about. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did I miss any crazy combinations, or have you thought of other interesting ways to use these spells in combat or even out of combat? Again, that teleportation one, especially because it specifically says the party member, whoever is doing it, can choose to fail it, could be a game changer for movement around the battlefield, allow you to escape certain situations and circumvent things, right? Fly, for example, is a 3rd level spell, but if you have access to 2nd level spells and you can teleport an ally 90 feet from any point within 90 feet of you, you could possibly traverse gaps you couldn't normally do. So many different options here, and I am a huge fan of them. But that being said, I haven't seen any of them in play to know whether or not they're super ridiculously overpowered or just, okay in the grand scheme of things. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you for more Strixhaven Curriculum of Chaos content in the near future. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.